Hello everyone, I am back with part 2 of the sewing and garden slash flower themed DESTASH lots. So let me just jump into it and get started. There's quite a bit of stuff here. So the first lot is going to be, I guess the more of a garden themed lot. So the first thing I have here is the little golden book, Two Little Gardeners, and I know a lot of people like to use these books for junk journals, and the date on this is 1951, I believe. I could be wrong. Alright, we also have one of the beveled mats. Here's some of the paper with leaves and trees, and the Hobby Lobby paper, vintage papers, and I included The Garden Gate Was Open, My Beautiful Rose Was Gone, so I thought that was appropriate music sheets for this particular lot. The majority of the music sheets that I have all been from the early 1900s. Is a library card pocket, some vintage flashcards. I tried to include kind of some of the same vintage papers in each lot, and then I just added some more themed items to the lot. Here's some more antique music. Okay, here we go with this one. And I guess these aren't music sheets. I think it might be maybe the back page or something like that. But it would still work great in a junk journal. And then here we have this one. Alright, here's an assortment of paper doilies. And I think I tried to include red in this one, so there's more heart-shaped paper doilies. Here is a crocheted doily. Here's some red lace, some rickrack. This is newer. This is not vintage, so there are a couple newer things. This is vintage, and here we have a vintage handkerchief, never been opened, some hinges. This is 1984, a couple of the larger envelopes for coffee staining. There is that. Another vintage doily, a heart. Here's some vintage lace and little embellishment. I think I made that and wound up not using it. Here's a little heart doily. Here's some red ruffle. This is vintage. This is a 1940s or 1950s hair ribbon. Here's some more ruffle lace, that is vintage. Cute little bow. This is actually, I believe this might be vintage, probably from the 90s anyway, if you go by the 20-year rule. Here's some red paper clips, and there's a star in there, just a little assortment of some paper clips. Here's a little packet of some vintage stamps and some satin roses. Here's a cute little strawberry applique. And I guess these are stickers, adorable little stickers. Here is a vintage cigar bag, and here is a vintage envelope. There's a couple envelopes I included for coffee staining, tea dyeing, distressing. This is cool. This is some vintage bookmarks. And I had some of this stuff in other lots, but I just repackaged them into, you saw the book boxes that I had. There's some labels. So I just took the book boxes, the ones that did not sell, and I took those apart and just included whatever stuff was left into some of these lots. So here's just a little assortment of tags and images and cutouts and things like that. So I did include that. And then the last thing with this lot is some of the Prima flowers. So there is the first lot, the garden or flower themed lot. These lots will be $25 shipped, and it will be PayPal only. I will leave all of the information in the description. If you're interested, just contact me. Okay, here is the second sewing kit, and I still have the other sewing kit available, so I will put that link in the description as well. We will get started with this lot. This is a 1973, I guess, sewing, a bit with knit. And there's a letter from 1977 here that will stay in. I have included some vintage patterns, and I don't believe they have been used. I believe they're from 1980s, if I'm not mistaken. 79 on that one. And 79 on this one as well. So a lot of paper in here that would be great for junk journals. Okay, so a couple of the envelopes, kind of the same stuff as the first lot, vintage papers, the library pocket, vintage flashcards, the wavy side papers, the 1970s sticker images. Then we get to some of the music sheets. This one is 1921. And that actually goes with this. All right. This one has some really nice aging on that, if you can see that, and it's too much mustard. All right, here is that one. Then we have some of the vintage supplies and packaging, some snap fasteners, hook and eye, more snaps, the brassiere or belt repair. I guess this is the same thing, a repair kit. And here is a little magazine on doilies. I just thought this was really cool when I found it. So that will go with this kit. And we have a vintage tape measure, some nice vintage buttons, more snaps. Here is a circular knitting pin, and I don't know if you can use the pen, but the packaging would be great to make a pocket or just include in your junk journal. Here's a random assortment of buttons and tassels, some of the satin flowers or roses. Here we have some tags and a little sewing kit, just all sorts of little bits to add into a junk journal. Here's one of those hat pins, another little vintage button. Here we have some satin ribbon, vintage, and some, I think this is seam binding. I could be wrong. Here are some borders. And as you can see, this has kind of a blue theme. Here is a vintage hanky. And here's a vintage doily. We have some vintage ribbon, or lace rather. Here's some vintage ribbon. Beautiful blue color. More vintage ribbon. And here's some velvet ribbon. Here's a nice little assortment of vintage seam binding, lace, ribbons, things like that. Here is, I can't remember what this is called, but that is vintage. Here's a tassel, and then we have some of the Prima flowers. So that is it for this kit. If you're interested, I will leave the information in the description box. Just contact me through my email, and thank you so much for watching.